Mic on. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 4th Board of Commissioners meeting. This evening, we have the invocation and pledge by Pastor Casey Carlton of Powell's Point Baptist Church.
Thank you, and I'm honored to be here tonight to do this prayer. Okay, let's pray. Lord Jesus, as we sit here before you now, Lord, we thank you for all those things, Lord, that we deem insignificant, or, Lord, those things that we overlook or take for granted, Lord. Lord, as we gather today at this meeting, we ask you will be in our midst. Help us make decisions, Lord, that are pleasing to you. Help us to be able to discuss the matters at hand that will be at hand in a reasonable way, and that to be willing to give up even having our own way. God, let this meeting be productive, and as should be the case in all areas of our lives, help us to keep you at the forefront of our minds as we do the work set aside here before us. Thank you for the opportunity to care for the world that you have made, Lord. We ask that your blessings would rest on this team, that you would give them great vision and enthusiasm for this work. Please bless the efforts of their hands, the bonds between them, and the influence of their work in this location and our surrounding communities. In Jesus' holy name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. I don't know. She'll have to work on that in the back. We don't have TV up here.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public comment. We have Miss Barbara Snowden signed up this evening. I'll remind everyone that comes up for public comment to please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Barbara Snowden, and I live at 154 Courthouse Road. I know that this is February 2019, but I have a couple things that are left over from 218. The first one, on Wednesday, we will be giving out the winners for the Passbook, the little program where you went to the 16 counties and saw 2 different places. Well, we had 3 winners from Currituck, which I thought was very, very good. We had one from the high school, one from Central Elementary, and one received a $50 gift certificate for completing the Passbook program. We'll give out all 5 iPads and pencils and gift certificates at the museum at 4:30 on Wednesday afternoon. The other one, that has to do with the 16 county 350th. The second reason I'm here is have to complete the 2018 Currituck celebration. One of the things that we wanted to do was to have something permanent that we could leave to the county that would reflect our 350th anniversary of being a precinct, and as such, the first county in North Carolina. So at this time, I would like to present with you what we are leaving to the county. This painting will be on display here or wherever y'all decide to put it. It will be on display not this Monday night, but a week from tonight at the library for our Historical Society meeting. And then after that, I'll turn it over to the county to hang it wherever they would like to hang it. The painting is a painting of the 1898 courthouse and the way it looked. It is based on a photograph that we were able to find at the Museum of the Albemarle collection, and we were able to compare it with 3 other copies of this photograph that we found in the county. So at this time, I'm going to ask Monica to come and help me, and we will move it so y'all can see it. I've been told this is where I need to put it
You
so
paint it?
everyone can see it.
What? Do,
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Dan, do you understand why I've been asking you to take that porch down? The porch that you see on the courthouse is a neoclassical porch that was put in there in the 1950s. This is the way the courthouse looked in 1898. And as you can see, this building would fit in perfectly in Colonial Williamsburg or any other county. It is a very distinctive building. A couple things about the building. It had a slate roof, and the dormer that you see in this photograph is still up in the attic of this building. When they changed the roof, they just put that dormer and left it in the attic so you can go up there and see it. That answers the question that everybody asked me, why are those colors at the door as you come in? That's because they match the dormer. And the other thing we found when we did this painting is that the detail of this building. I don't know if you've ever looked at it closely, but if you will look, every 6 row of bricks is done differently. There's a header with a different size brick. So that's what gives us the detail of this building. Now, I would like to introduce to you the very talented lady from Currituck County who did this. This was done by a watercolor artist, Mary Edwards. Mary, will you stand up, please? And we hope that when you look at this building, you will enjoy what it looked like, and you can see and go out and look at this building as you see it today. Now, I'm going to disappear for 4 years. The reason I end with that, in case you did not realize, in 4 years, the ones of you who were elected to a 4-year term, the 300th anniversary of the first Currituck County Courthouse, which was built on this site, and the archaeology is probably under this building, will be in 4 years. So you've got 4 years of quiet, and then I'll see you in 4 years.
Thank you very much. That's pretty good. All right. Next on the agenda is Melissa Reynolds.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Reynolds from 104 Swan Drive in Currituck County, Currituck, part of Currituck County. I brought my entourage with me.
See that?
My name is Melissa Reynolds, and I am a teacher in Currituck County. I am also very actively involved in the community. I serve as the chairwoman on the board of directors for Currituck Kids Incorporated, as well as on the board of Moyac Women's Club. Throughout these roles, I've been able to network with leaders from various businesses, local community service organizations, and nonprofits. I have come to realize one thing: Currituck County cares. Tonight I brought some friends with me. This is Melody Janovitz. She's here from 1 by 1 Food Pantry. This is Marianne Gilbert. She serves as the vice chairwoman on Currituck Kids Incorporated with me. And this is Donna Kessler, Molly Fostick, and Jamie Waugh from the Moyac Women's Club. We are all here together to invite you to a collaborative community service event we are calling Currituck Cares. You should have gotten a flyer from this just a moment ago, and if you don't, I can get you one.
We got it.
The event takes place on February 20th at 6 p.m. at the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Center Auditorium. The purpose of the event is to raise awareness of local organizations that are currently supporting the school-age youth and students of Currituck County. There will be a brief presentation at the event, followed by a meet and greet session. We would like to create an opportunity for our county leaders to learn about, as well as talk with, an amazing network of volunteers within our county. Representatives from Currituck Kids Incorporated, Moyac Women's Club, 1 by 1 Food Pantry, as well as other organizations such as the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Group, the YMCA, Hunt's House for Kids, Currituck Education Foundation, and many others will be available at this event. I will email each of you a digital copy of the flyer so that you can RSVP to me directly through that email, which is also located on the bottom of the flyer. I can also answer any questions that you have about the event. The ladies and I thank you so much for your time and your service to our county, and I look forward to seeing you on February 20th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everything you do for the county, ladies.
Miss Marion, did you want to jump? Come on up, Miss Marion.
Okay. I'm on the other side of the bench now. So I'm Marion Gilbert, 107 Fargo Court. But I'm also on the Mayock Women's and also involved with a lot of community service, which you all are very familiar with. As I served on the Board of Commissioners, we had some conversations about having community awareness boards at each one of the recycling centers. So I would request that we follow up and find out where we are with that. And I've spoken briefly to Mr. Scanlon, but I would ask each one of you to help drive the initiatives to get that to happen, because this is how we're going to communicate with our community. All of these ladies here, we work very hard, and we kind of cross over from one organization to another, and constantly working with our churches and other community organizations. So for the betterment of Currituck County, please consider that, and just thank you for your time, and we've got great things coming forward. So I hope to see you on the 20th.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, next up we have Miss Tina Williams.
Hello. My name is Tina Williams. I live at 112 Meadow Blue Chip Drive, and that's in Ranchland. My name is Tina Williams, and I have lived in Ranchland for almost 25 years. For most of that time, good jobs here were scarce unless you owned your own business. For around 15 years, I helped my husband with his electrical contracting business. Even then, at times, we've struggled to provide for the family. For the past 4 years, due to new developments in Moyock, I have become involved in real estate sales, and my income has grown significantly. Developments like what's being proposed next door on the Foss Tract have made a huge difference in my ability to provide for my family. There are many people in Moyock like me who are benefiting from jobs that are created by new development. As a result, the local economy is growing, and people like me are not struggling like we once were. Eventually, we will all be able to give back to the community. I urge you to approve the development. This will help so many others like me, give them new opportunities to work and thrive, and ultimately help our whole community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Karen Brown. Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm here representing the Outer Banks Chamber of Commerce. I'm the president and CEO there, and I'm here to kind of close the circle. I think Bob Peel.
And we need your name and
Karen
address.
Brown.
An address for the record.
I'm at 708 West Sportsman Drive in Kill Devil Hills.
Thank you.
The Outer Banks Chamber does represent Currituck, Dare, and Ocracoke Island, so I'm here for the chamber. Bob Peel, our chairman of the board, was here back in February just to talk to you a little bit about housing and the housing situation in our entire region. So I just have a letter from the board of directors that I'd like to read to you. On February 19, 2018, Bob Peel of the Outer Banks Chamber attended a work session with the Currituck Board of Commissioners to start a conversation and inform the Board of Commissioners of the work of the Chamber's Community Housing Initiative Committee. Since then, the Community Housing Initiative Committee has reviewed existing zoning ordinances in Currituck, Dare, and all of Dare municipalities and advocated for zoning and ordinance changes to encourage diverse housing options. These efforts were successful in Dare County, and many of the changes were already permitted in Currituck County, including multifamily projects, accessory dwelling units, and apartments. As the largest business organization representing over 950 businesses and organizations in Currituck County, Dare County, and Ocracoke Island, the Outer Banks Chamber supports the efforts of Currituck County in defining areas where specific housing types may occur at higher densities, including multifamily, accessory dwelling units, and apartments. The Outer Banks Chamber is also excited to see how the planned Currituck Station project moves forward as a development that will offer housing as well as commercial development options. The project will serve as a model for other projects throughout the region. On behalf of the Outer Banks Chamber of Commerce, we look forward to working with you in the future on projects and economic development in the region. Sincerely, Karen Brown. And I have copies for you if you're interested.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have signed up this evening. Would anybody else like to comment? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Oh, come on up, sir. Sorry. Get him straight, Mark. Okay, you can do that under public comment for that agenda item if you'd like to. Okay. All right, thank you. No problem. We're here to help. Next up on the agenda, Commissioner's Report. This past last week, myself and most of the Board of Commissioners attended Essentials of County Government. And what that means is we went through a 2-hour ethics training course and training for new commissioners and retread commissioners alike so that they could get refreshed on things. But it's a great opportunity for us to work together, talk through problems like budgeting and different things that go on there, and help the new members out with some of their duties and responsibilities and what it really means to be a commissioner. And so overall, the experience has always been good for me. This is my second time through, and getting to spend time with the commissioners and know them better is always a good thing. Prior to that, on Friday and Saturday, we had our annual treat, and that was here in this room. And the reason I bring that up is because we only had a couple of people come in. And prior to that, I had mentioned that we would be having that. I encourage anyone that wants to attend those meetings and work sessions to please come in so that you can see how we actually operate. We come in, we work through issues together, and it really sets the tone for the staff for the next year for projects we want to get done. So when you see those things on the agenda, if you'd like to come up and listen to what we are talking about, please do so. It may help clear up some things that come up that you just show up for at a meeting, and we were just talking about it in the room next door, and help understand what's going on. Everything we do, if there's more than 4 of us, is in the public spotlight. In my 2 years on this board, there has been no backroom deals or any other things that we see regularly on Facebook or any other social media site. Myself and this Board of Commissioners, for the most part, have worked diligently to improve our image and to listen to people. So please call us. Please be involved if you can. And lastly, I'd like to give a special thank you to Miss Leanne. She works tirelessly to keep us straight. She went with us to the Essentials of Government. She was up past midnight both nights after herding us cats and getting us fed to get our agenda together for this evening. So thank you for everything you do for us and the extra effort you put in. It is very much appreciated. And with that, I will pass it to Mr. Payne.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Etheridge.
I'd just like to comment, everything you said was true. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Beaumont.
The same, except I would add, thank God we live in Currituck County, because listening to some of the stories that are going around this region of the state, oh my gosh, it could be worse. That's it.
We are doing very well. We are doing very well. You're next, sir.
I'd like to just congratulate, I know probably a lot of you guys seen on the news, we have one of our dispatchers, which they're first responders. They're actually the first responder that you speak to and come to dealings with. She was on the news for helping a couple deliver a baby over the phone. Pretty amazing. So the county staff as well as us, we have good people that work here that care about the county. And I just wanted to recognize Brandy Leary is her name. Some of you guys might have seen it on the news, but it was a really really cool thing. So that's it.
Mr. Etheridge?
I'll just ditto everybody's comments about your comments about the retreat and then the essentials of government class. And being that my wife works in 911 and is one of those responders, I can tell you it's a tough job and they take it to heart in all seriousness.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Jarvis.
And I just would say the same. Thank you for the opportunity. I've really learned a lot at the retreat and makes me even more excited about serving.
All right. Next item on the agenda, public hearings. PB 08-48, Cape Currituck, Horgan Mason. Amended conditional district planned unit development zoning overlay to decrease the number of dwelling units / density, canal realignment, reduce wetland fill, and reorient development layout on property located at 291 West Side Lane, Powell's Point, Poplar Branch Township. Parcel ID numbers 0012 000 003B 0000 and 0112 000 003C 000. Somehow I just feel like it's zero. I think I got all the zeros. And with that, this item is going to be moved down the road. Ms. Lori, did you need anything out of us this evening other than a motion?
Other than a motion?
Okay. Ms. Jarvis.
I move to defer the public hearing for PB 08-48 Cape Currituck amended conditional district plan unit development zoning overlay to our February 18th, 2019 meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Next up this evening, PB 18-27 University Park LLC. Amend 2006 land use plan / future classification map for limited service to full service to allow an increase in density from 1.5 units per acre to 3 units per acre located at the University Park development. There's a whole lot of pins and zeros in this one. 0131-00-097A-0000 124J-000 OSP2-0000 131-000 095A-0000 124J-000 00B1 through 00B6000 124J-000-00C1 through 0067-000. I'm halfway there. 124J-000-00D1 through 00D6-000. 124J-00-00E1 through 00E6-000. Final stretch, 124J-000-00F1 through 00F6-0000 and 124J-00-00G1 through 00G3-000 Poplar Branch Township. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Cicero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At your place tonight, there was a letter from House Engineering, and even after all those zeros, the applicant has asked for a deferral for this item to be heard at your March 18th meeting due to a medical condition. The letter is there at your place. If you have any questions for me, I will be glad to answer them. The applicant has given one deferral, and so Mr. Bebo is asking for that deferral at this time.
Okay. Any further questions for Ms. Cicero? Would anyone like to put forth a motion? Oh, no, she's not ready.
Oh, okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve this requested deferral for the project that you just mentioned, PB 18-27, Universal Park LLC, until the February 4th meeting.
March.
Oh, excuse me. March 18th meeting.
Thank you.
From the 4th.
Got it. All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next on the agenda, PB 18-23, Foss Tract, rezone 228.83 acres from ag to planned development, residential on property located in Moyock on the west side of Currituck Highway, north of Ranchland Subdivision. Got a couple PIN numbers on this one. 0015-0000-0086-0000. Moyock Township. With that, Ms. LaCicero, you are up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, before you tonight is a rezoning for a planned unit development residential, a PDR. The applicant is Sandra Foss and Iris O'Connor, the owners. This is a 228.83 acre tract. It's located on the west side of Currituck Highway, just north of Ranchland, and kind of west of it's west of Eagle Creek. It is currently zoned ag, and you can see the surrounding properties are zoned ag, single-family residential, single-family mainland, general business with some single-family mainland and ag across the road. It is designated in the 2006 land use plan as full-service area, and in the Moyock Small Area Plan, it is designated as limited service. So a little bit about a PDR before we get into any more analysis of the case. A PDR is a little bit different. It's a planned unit development, residential, and adds flexibility to our regular zoning ordinance, our regular UDO or zoning districts. It's to encourage innovative land planning and site design concepts to support a high quality of development by, one, reducing the inflexibility or uniform design of strict application of our UDO standards, which is designed primarily for individual lots. It also allows greater flexibility in design by providing different opportunities for access, open space, and different amenities. A PDR will also allow for a mixture of residential and non-residential land uses in the same development, including a mix of housing types, lot sizes, and densities. It also is an efficient use of land that could result in a smaller network of roads and utilities that would lower the cost of development. It promotes a high quality of design and environmentally sensitive development. So when you're approving a PD, a planned development, a PDR, you're not only approving, you're not just approving a zoning change, but you're also approving a conceptual master plan and terms of conditions. What the applicant is asking for with this PDR is 513 residential units and about 22,000 square feet of neighborhood commercial. There will be 85 acres of open space, and the amenities for this PDR will include a clubhouse, recreation area, and a multi-use path. So within a PDR, you're going to have some densities and intensities that are different from our what we regularly think of as a residential development. So the applicant is proposing several different types of housing. There's a two-sided townhouse, and the applicant will have an opportunity to go over their proposal and probably can answer better to you the types of housing that they're proposing. But a two-sided townhouse, 72 of those, a traditional neighborhood development townhouse, a T&D is what that's called, a traditional neighborhood development townhouse, 91 of those, and a traditional neighborhood single family, 121 of those units, and 229 conventional single family for a density of 2.25 units per acre. So, and this development is proposed to be on county water, but it will be on its own sewer wastewater treatment plant, package plant, we commonly refer to them just for this development. Right now, that is the proposal. So that's essentially a big overview of the master plan. And because you're not only approving a master plan, but you're also approving the terms and conditions that goes along with that, I'd like to go, this is going to be a little bit tedious, but I would like to go over the terms and conditions that the applicant is proposing for this development. So the conditions that are going to be related to the approval of the application for the PED conditional zoning classification, and you have this is in the booklet that the applicant provided you all. I believe he did, at least. So in the terms and conditions, improvements to on-site and off-site stormwater systems shall be completed by the developer, and it's further described in another section in the terms and conditions. The phasing plan shall be adhered to, except that flexibility shall be permitted in the sequence in which the phases are developed. The developer will provide an annual report updating the phasing plan for the development. And the development will be connected to central wastewater treatment and disposal system in the Currituck County water system. Fire protection will be provided in accordance with the UDO standards of the fire code. The master plan, including the density and intensity standards, dimensional standards, and development standards that are shown on the master plan drawings, shall be incorporated with the approval and adhered to by the developer, subject to the agreed degree of flexibility. The community form and design shall conform to the streetscapes that are included in this master plan. Variations will be provided and permitted in colors, materials, and architectural details. The fourth condition is transportation, potable water, wastewater, and stormwater management will be addressed in accordance with the following. Transportation, the main subdivision entrance will be directly from NC 168, Currituck Highway. They will provide acceleration and deceleration lanes in accordance with DOT standards. And roadways will be laid out generally as shown in the master plan and will finally have the following right-of-way pavement widths. So the boulevards, the large roads in this development will have a right-of-way width of between 100 and 130 feet. Pavement width will be 35 feet each way. The local road with parking on both sides will be 60 feet right-of-way width with 45 pavement width. The local road with parking on one side will be 50 to 55 feet and 35 feet of pavement. The local road with no parking will be 45 foot of right-of-way with 27 pavement width. And alleys, which is in the T&D, the traditional neighborhood development, alleys would be 20 to 30 feet of right-of-way with 20 foot of pavement. Potable water will be tapping onto the Currituck County existing 12-inch main, and they will be meeting fire protection standards. Individual lots and dwellings will be metered. Land has been set aside for the construction of a centralized wastewater treatment and disposal facility. This wastewater collection system will be constructed by the developer and approved by North Carolina DEQ. They will be managed and become a wastewater utility. And if off-site wastewater service becomes available, either by Eagle Creek or with the county, the development may connect to one of those utilities. The stormwater management, a major drainage way known as Rolling Creek Canal runs through the development property. Due to the importance of this drainage feature, the development, for not just this development but other properties located upstream and downstream, the developer has performed drainage analysis. Preliminary findings show that a section of Rolling Creek has been cleaned and maintained. A section of Rolling Creek that runs through the Eagle Creek community has been cleaned, maintained, and appears to be in relatively good condition. The portion of Rolling Creek downstream also appears to be in good condition. The section that flows between Eagle Creek and 168 is in need of improvement and maintenance. The property line ditch that runs along the common property line between Ranchland and Faust, and between Faust and the auto auction, is in need of improvement. So the developer has committed to cleaning and laying back the slopes and stabilizing the portion of Rolling Creek that runs from the floor property all the way to the railroad next to 168. He's also committed to improving the common property line ditch along Ranchland and the auction property, and to excavate a new ditch that would be available to Ranchland along the common property line. The subject to obtaining the right of entry to other properties, the developer will also improve sections of Rolling Creek both upstream and downstream of the Falls property. A verbal commitment from the property owner has been obtained for that purpose. So And there's more details about the on-site stormwater. On-site stormwater will be managed by construction of series of stormwater management ponds shown on the master plan. And they will do this. They will have to meet our stormwater standards. And as far as provisions related to environmental protection and monitoring, wetlands subject to the Army Corps have been delineated, and that will be included in the master plan. So the association will assume the responsibility for ongoing operation and maintenance of all stormwater facilities in accordance with our UDO requirements. So that's the terms and conditions that you could potentially be approving along with this master plan. There's also a supplemental report from the master plan, and I would like to go over a few of these. They are, like I said, proposing several different lot sizes, housing types, and lot sizes and densities throughout the community. Let's see. So, and they also are proposing a phasing plan, 10 phases for the development, and that is included in their submittal. The phasing schedule is indicates how residential development and non-residential development will be timed with infrastructure, open space, and recreational improvements. Another issue that I would like to raise would be the conversion schedule. In this supplemental report from the master plan, developer has noted that that the front-loaded single-family dwellings, that rear-loaded cottage lots, if market conditions warrant, may be converted to conventional front-loaded single-family dwellings at a rate of up to 50% in each phase that includes the cottage lots. They also, in this document, they're also saying that if it is the 22,000 square feet of neighborhood commercial, if the market demands it, that could be constructed at the bottom floor of this townhomes could be converted back to completely all residential without increasing the approved density. So, okay. So that's the terms and conditions in the master plan that I wanted to review with you. Another issue that has been raised is the impact that this could have on our school system. At 513 residential units in this planned development, using our adequate facilities ordinance and all the data that we went over at the retreat, we're going to have 120. This is going to generate 128 elementary school students, 41 middle school students, and 72 high school students. So,
what was the high school count again? Sorry.
72.
72. Thank you.
So, in going over these rezonings, we look at land use plan, we look at the Moyock Small Area Plan, we look at all these different plans that the county has in place. And we say policy H1N1 of the land use plan is Currituck County shall encourage development to occur at densities appropriate for the location. And staff does not feel like this is an appropriate density at this location. Like I said, this is 2.25 units per acre. The adjoining subdivision ranch land to the east is at 0.58 units per acre with larger lots. They're at 1.44 acre average lot size, and that the proposed development is at 0.33 acres per average lot size. Then policy 8N-H1 out of the 2006 land use plan is that the county recognizes the risk to life and property that exists within special flood hazard areas that may be inundated during major storms. This area, although now that it is not in a flood zone, prior to, with the old flood maps, prior to the new maps becoming effective, this was an AE 4.5 flood zone and X flood zone. So now, in the Moyock Small Area Plan, which was done in 2013 versus the 2006 Land Use Plan, this area was denoted as limited service, and so in limited service, that is not limited residential densities in this designation range between 1 and 1.5 units per acre. So staff does not feel like that this is compatible with the policy FLU1 from the Moyock Small area. This is promote compatibility between new development and existing development to avoid adverse impacts to the existing community. We're back to the adjoining neighborhood is at a significantly lower density than this one is proposing. And policy CC1 in the Moyock Small Area Plan encourage and foster development that is compatible with the rural atmosphere and transitional areas in a small town Main Street feel with a consistent vision. The future land use map of the Moyock Small Area does not allow the density, this type of density at location. And also policy B112 encourage well-planned mixed-use developments, include a range of intensities and diverse housing types. Large-scale mixed-use projects should be carefully located in areas supported by the future land use map and adequately served by infrastructure and county services. And staff does not feel like this development is consistent with the Moyock Small Area Plan. So for that reason, planning staff did not recommend approval of this project. However, so we consider it inconsistent with these land use policies and the several policies of the Moyock Small Area Plan. And TRC did recommend denial of this plan development residential because of these inconsistencies. These are some excerpts about why the proposed rezoning is inconsistent with our plan when it comes to coming from the School of Government. So, however, the Planning Board did make a recommendation to approve this because they felt that it was consistent with the full service area of the 2006 Land Use Plan, and that it was, it was consistent. Yes, that it was in the best interest, in the public interest, that not all the density would be in Currituck Station. So, with that, I think I've covered all the notes that I had, all the big points I had for this development. I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can.
One of the things you brought up was changing of the flood zones, and this area is low, obviously. But when we redid those flood zones, we changed the base elevations, did we not? We added the 2 foot of freeboard and that's for areas that are still in the flood zone. Okay. So, and I believe that the flood zone was mostly eliminated on this property. I thought we raised it knowing that these areas, just kind of across the board, because we knew these areas were subject to flood, that we were going to just kind of across the board make that change, if memory serves. So that's why I'm asking. Yeah, it was just for those properties that are still in a special flood hazard area, like the AE or the VE, any of the special flood hazard areas. We're going to raise those by 2 feet because we're seeing such a significant drop in that. But once we don't have a freeboard if you're not located in a special flood hazard area. Okay.
Mr. Cicero, the project like this, I've heard this type of development mentioned a lot of times with the type of home, the townhouses and all that. Seems like it could be something that, I mean, we always heard that we need something for housing. I think the townhomes would probably provide a lower cost for living. But this would be the first like this in the county, correct? Some type of development like this, or am I wrong?
It would be, if it comes to fruition, it would be
if it were to be approved.
Yeah, if it was to be built, this would be the first development of this type in the county. You're correct.
Okay, and then I guess another question. I've heard a lot about the stormwater cleaning and improvements. I know there's been a lot of those ditches around there, a lot of concerns with the drainage on that, and I don't know if our engineer could come up and speak on this a little bit, because I'd like to get his input on some of the improvements they're talking about, if he thinks that would be beneficial, if you don't mind, this weather coming up, and just I'd like to get your comments on this because it looks like they're doing quite a bit of improvements and cleaning. And just, I know you probably studied this, looked at it, and get your thoughts and concerns.
So, the Foss Track is different in a way from other developments because of Rolling Creek. They do have a good outlet. So, what I've been talking to with their engineer is to make sure that it's done in a proper way and that it truly serves the neighboring communities like he's promising. So let's start with Rolling Creek. So as that cuts across his track and it goes to the railroad tracks, he would clean that out, put it on grade, and slope the shoulders back to 3-to-1.
In my understanding, there's a section that's in pretty bad condition right now.
There's spots in it, and there's humps and cave-ins, so putting this on grade, 3-to-1 slopes, all the way to the railroad tracks. Now, once you get past that, the Rolling Creek opens up pretty good, and so he's offered from the railroad tracks all the way, probably about 3/4 of a mile downstream through Rolling Creek Estates to clear and snag all of that. So we got to make sure that's in there. The other benefit of Rolling Creek is that that's the one that can help Eagle Creek the most. And I want to make sure that we say that it needs to be cleaned, put on grade, and sloped back all the way to Eagle Creek to truly benefit Eagle Creek. If he leaves that gap in there across that track, it's not going to help as much. So that's Rolling Creek, all the way from Eagle Creek to the eastern boundary of Rolling Creek Estates. Then to help ranch land. So ranch land divides the southern part goes to Guinea Mill, but the northern half goes to Rolling Creek. To help ranch land, there's called the ranch land outlets, and they flow mainly around the auto auction track. From the auto auction track to the southern tip of the Foss Track, there's no ditch there. What the developer is proposing there is to dig a new ditch along that common property line between ranch land and the Foss Track, all the way to the railroad tracks. The ditch exists along the auto auction, so he would improve that, put it on grade, 3-to-1 slopes, and then dig a new ditch along the common property line with ranch land. The third area is Survey Road ditch on the northern property line. That ditch outfalls, has a box culvert under 168, then a box culvert under, or a bridge under a railroad track, and then it parallels Guinea Mill Road till it connects back up to Rolling Creek. That section of the ditch he would clean and put on grade and slope back from 168 until it joins back with Guinea Mill Road. I believe from that point on is sufficient. So with those?
So what you're saying, he's going to go on the other side of the road?
Yes.
Highway, okay.
He's going off track on Guinea Mill or Rolling Canal along the back of that 10-acre subdivision. He's going off site at Survey Road ditch, and the one on the ranch land, he would have to put that on his property until you get to the auto auction, and then he would have to try to share that because that ditch is on both properties. So some of this is getting permission, but if he doesn't get permission, it's not going to truly help the neighbors. And another thing that I've asked him is that with these ditches, particularly the one along ranch land, his stormwater ponds will drain into that ditch. So with that, and then trying to help ranch land, I've asked him to make, and then Rolling Creek and survey improvements, design those to a 500-year storm event, which will be big. That's our UDO is 6 inches, and that's a 13-inch rain. So I feel like with those stipulations that he truly will help his neighbor.
So all the way around, if this is done and he gets the approval to go on the private property, if all that's done, you can see a significant improvement for everybody around.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now, ranch land along Longhorn Drive has to get into that ditch. Now, there's not major drainage features that'll drain ranch land into his new ditch. But there in the northwest corner of ranch land, that cul-de-sac will empty into that ditch, and as flooding occurs, it will drain to his new ditch. Where before, when it tries to go out, it doesn't have a good outlet. So he's got these three major ditches off-site, clearing and snagging downstream, clearing upstream on Rolling, putting in a new ditch along ranch land, the 500-year storm event, the size of ditches. And one of the last thing I asked him, we talked about, was in the commercial area out near the road is one of the low spots of the development. And he put his most dense area in the low spot. And I've asked him that should have at least 2 foot of fill over that entire area. So that's the drainage.
Eric, if I could ask you too, and he's agreed. I've read on some of the comments that he's gotten, verbal permission from some of the people as well, and some of it's his own that he's going to clean out. So it was cleaning out 3 ditches and making 2 new existing ditches, correct?
Making one new one.
Okay.
Along the border there with ranch land by Longhorn Drive, that would be a new ditch.
And that's all on his own dime?
That would be all on his own dime, on his property.
Okay.
To a 500-year storm event.
Okay, thank you.
And then cleaning out Rolling from Eagle Creek to the tracks. Redigging that ditch.
Has the developer ever offered that, to your knowledge?
No.
Mine neither.
So he's actually gone above and beyond, and I think if he can accomplish that, that would be a good job.
Well, and I guess this next question, I'll just wait for the applicant to come up, but I guess the next question would be, I know part of it says the phasing piece of it there, but when would all this be done in phase one? Everything be done in phase one?
Right, immediately.
Immediately, okay. All right.
Yeah, first thing.
How many total acres is that? I know she said it was 80. I know she said it was 85 acres of open space. How big is the project? 200 and something?
228 acres.
228. I got one more question. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
The units per acre. What's the proposed units per acre at Currituck Station?
Essentially, it's going to be 1 unit per acre over 3,000 dwelling units over 3,000 acres, so it'll be 1 unit per acre. However, that would break out differently project by project.
So,
So you can't kind of compare apples to apples on that one, I guess, maybe?
Not really.
Not right
no.
now.
well, I think at Currituck Station, you'll have certain areas that are higher concentrations, right?
Correct.
When we could see this much density in a couple of those areas, is that correct?
We could
Currituck
see a
Station?
similar density in
Yeah.
a couple of areas, yes.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions for Mr. Weatherly? No.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. LaCicera, you had that school of government slide. That's something we haven't really seen before, so I thought I'd just get you to dive into that a little bit more. What that's talking about. We don't normally see that in our package.
You don't, and you can remember Mr. McCree's some of his information that he gave out during the retreat. Essentially, when you make a zoning change, and this is a change to the zoning map, you have to adopt a consistency statement, whether it's your proposed rezoning is inconsistent with your plan. And I may ask Mr. McCree to weigh in on this when I start kind of convoluting it. But you don't have to be consistent with your plan. However, good planning practice, you do have some consistency with some of your plans. And this one, we feel that is inconsistent with the Moyock Small Area Plan, and it's a newer plan. So So these are the policies that we have kind of put in place through the public input process, through the land use plan and the Moyock Small Area Plan, and so that's what you're basing your decision on. Are these policies? So unfortunately, oftentimes, if you do, I guess the new state law, if you approve the rezoning that is inconsistent with your plan, it changes your comprehensive plan, your land use plan, or something like that at the same time. Is that the way you understand it, Mr. McCree?
Yes, it will have the effect of amending your land use plan, comprehensive plan, which is the land use plan. Should you, in this case, approve the application, which will, in effect, be contrary to or be a modification of your land use plan by its adoption.
And so, but does it only affect this piece of property, or does it bring that higher density kind of down towards it? I mean, it's not. It really is just this piece of property.
Yes.
Okay.
But would it make it easier for other people to amend the policies?
I don't think so. Again, it's within your discretion as a Board of Commissioners and your vision for the development of the county. So I don't know that it has any precedential value to any future applicant. I'm sure you would hear it again, but you're not bound to give someone else an approval just because you might approve this application.
I got a question. I mean, like, what I don't understand, and I was a commissioner previously when the small area plan was going, the Mayock small area plan. The density for this is okay in Currituck Station, which is about 2 miles from that location. So 2 miles, I'm 44 years old, and I can still jog that probably. So I don't see that being a very big distance. So I don't see the apples to apples on that. Where's the difference, I guess, maybe is my question.
Well, staff feels that the concentrating the density in Currituck Station, where we have the infrastructure, is better than keep spreading the density further and further out. And this, we're just getting further away from existing wastewater treatment potential sewer. They're going to have their own package plant, and staff is a little bit concerned about having another package plant there, and just having that density. 2.25 acres up against something that's significantly less than that, like essentially a half unit per acre with ranch land.
What was Eagle Creek's, about 1.5?
I think about 1.5
per acre.
Yeah, and then there's Lakeview at Currituck that is on county wastewater is at 2.14 units per acre. Lakeview, so.
And that's a quarter of a mile from that track.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
Let me get
which
back.
plan takes precedent? The land use plan or the small area plan?
Well, that's up to the discretion of the Board of Commissioners.
Well, I know there's inconsistencies between the two. When the small area plan was adopted, were the inconsistencies addressed as supposedly with the CAMA adopted land use plan?
Well, typically, I would say we probably give more weight to the newer plan and to a small area plan. The land use plan with CAMA looks at the county-wide, looks at everything, the entire county. A small area plan, you delve into the community a little more and give it a little bit more detail study than you do at the land use plan level. So typically we give a little bit more weight to the newer plan or a small area plan because of this level of detail. However, it is up to the Board of Commissioners, their discretion of which one they choose to go.
Because I remember when the land use plan was updated in 2006, there was a public meeting at the Moyock Middle School library, and it was very well attended, mainly by Moyock residents, and they indicated at that time what they wanted to see. And that was why it was adopted the way it was. I was around back then. So that's why I'm asking, which one takes precedent?
And that's up to like I said, the discretion of the board.
It's not that one necessarily takes precedent. They both, of course, are part of a comprehensive plan that have been adopted by the Board of Commissioners, and both have value as you go through your analysis of an application. You might look at the small area plan as being a more focused plan for a certain geographical area within the county.
At that time, that area was targeted for full service because there was an anticipated commercial project in that area that the county was being supportive of that never came to fruition. And I think that's when the small area plan came in and started to move that back from those levels of density. But that full service was in recognition of a commercial project.
And the reason I asked my question, if the small area plan, when it was adopted, if we did not address the inconsistencies with the land use plan, is the small area plan valid? Because it said it must do something to reconcile the differences so it'd be consistent.
So certainly it's valid. I mean, it's a plan that's been adopted by the Board of Commissioners.
But did CAMA approve it?
They did go through some kind of approval process as was required to be adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. One last thing, what we usually don't hear, adverse impacts to neighbors. You guys, you said that was one of the reasons for denial. Just wanted you to expound a little bit on that so that everybody can understand what you guys mean by that.
This property does have a history of what is low, does have a history of flooding issues. If things aren't carried out correctly as far as stormwater management, we were concerned about the impact it could have on the neighbors. Also, at that density, it creates a level of inconsistency. You have much larger lots beside much smaller lots, creating potential adverse impact to neighbors just with the amount of neighbors that goes on, different things like that. But our big concern was just having that much density that far away from existing infrastructure. And the potential impact they have to having like 2.25 units per acre versus half a unit per acre, that density.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from Ms. LaCicero? Okay, well, at this time we'll bring the applicant up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, sir.
The goal of this development is to build a community that has a creative design, providing a mix of different residential uses in close proximity to one another, and at the same time providing an efficient use of open space that promotes an active lifestyle and a strong sense of community. We're also proposing limited small-scale commercial unit uses, primarily to serve the needs of the residents in this development, but which can also serve the surrounding community. All right. I need help driving this thing.
Okay, that's all right. There we go.
We're going to address each of these key factors. Thank you. We're going to give you an overview of the master plan and the concept for the development. We're going to discuss the results. Of course, Eric Weatherly has already given you a good overview of the results of the stormwater analysis. I'll just elaborate a little bit more on that and the commitments that are being made. We're going to summarize the zoning commitments that are being offered. We will show why the development appears to be compatible with neighboring properties, and we'll demonstrate consistency with the county plans. This is a rendered version of the master plan. This has evolved some since the original plan we proposed. We've made some improvements based on input from the neighboring community and others. We've added more ponds, more stormwater retention areas. We have actually added more on-street parking as a result of a comment that was made at a community meeting. We've added the first floor storefronts along a portion of the divided boulevard, which was recommended to us to make this a true mixed-use community. And the next several slides are going to show you the building concepts. As you come into the property from 168, you're going to come through a bermed, landscaped area that's going to screen this development from 168. Then you're going to come by some large ponds with fountains. Then you will come onto this boulevard, and the first building on the right will be this two-sided townhome that Lori mentioned, which will have a connected sidewalks and a multi-use path connecting it to the rest of the development. It'll also have some on-street parking, but also parking in the back, with the on-street primarily being visitor parking. The next section consists of townhomes that have parking and garages in the rear. This is the traditional neighborhood development that was mentioned. On-street parking here is also provided for visitors. You're going to have an attractive, clean streetscape along this boulevard instead of garage doors and driveways. Commercial storefronts are then proposed on a portion of the townhomes along this boulevard. This is the vision that we have for that part of the development. We envision places where you could sip a cup of coffee, grab a sandwich, possibly have an art studio. There will be wide sidewalks here with street lights. Shops will be a short walk to the Village Green that's a little farther in, which will be a gathering place for neighborhood events. Moving a little farther in, we have a single-family traditional neighborhood development, homes with driveways and garages that are accessed from the rear. So you have a nice, clean, attractive streetscape. We expect the homes to have porches in the front, and this will be a nice walking scale community. Going a little farther back, we continue to where there will be an attractive clubhouse with both indoor and outdoor recreational opportunities. Beyond that, then, you move into larger lots with more traditional homes. So there'll be a nice mix of a lot of different things. This slide just summarizes some of the main objectives and the design parameters. We're offering, again, this creative mix of compatible housing types. As you saw in the concept plans, it'll be pedestrian friendly with open spaces and greenways all connected. In addition to sidewalks throughout, we'll have multi-use paths connecting the outdoor recreation areas and meandering around the periphery of the site. Now we're mixing lot sizes and building types with attractive streetscapes throughout. We have delineated and are protecting the wetlands and buffering those. We will build a centralized wastewater treatment plant with the first phase of the development, and we'll then be turning that over to an experienced utility operations company to manage. We're proposing extra stormwater management facilities, which have been outlined, and we'll get into a few more details of in the next section. What this shows is that the streets are actually being designed in accordance with NCDOT's Complete Streets Planning and Design Manual. This manual provides standards for divided boulevards, for sidewalks, multi-use paths. We've used that in the street widths that Ms. LaCicero pointed out, the various types of streets and right-of-ways and so forth. We've got wider than normal pavement sections to accommodate on-street parking and bicycle lanes in key areas. Wider sidewalks were appropriate, so that we have a true multimodal network of transportation. This is going to be a pedestrian and bicycle-friendly community. So we heard concerns about stormwater problems in the area, so we asked ourselves, can this property be developed in a way that provides a significant public benefit to the community, and particularly to the residents who live nearby? What is the current situation, and what can be done to make the drainage better? So that's what led to us performing an analysis of the Rolling Creek drainage basin to determine whether there are things that can be done in connection with this development that can improve conditions for our neighbors both upstream and downstream. So the next few slides show the result of that analysis. And I'm just going to go kind of quickly through this. We mapped the areas. We did an actual on-site survey. We did site visits. We did photographic documentation. We evaluated. We did a second site visit. Will Creef accompanied me on one of those visits. And we studied all this just to figure out what the situation is and what can be done. These next couple of slides just kind of show you the existing conditions. We studied the area. From the left, on the left side of this slide is Eagle Creek. On the right side is Rolling Creek Estates. And the numbers you see are just numbers of photographs that I'm going to show you on the next couple of slides. On the right, you see Eagle Creek. This is the Rolling Creek outlet where it leaves Eagle Creek, and you can see that the channel is well maintained and in good condition. On the left, you see Rolling Creek downstream of Currituck Highway, which is also in relatively good condition, although there's some potential clearing and snagging that needs to be done downstream, as Eric Weatherly mentioned. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a typical section of Rolling Creek in between the first two sections. So you can see there's not nearly enough water getting through there. On the upper left is a section of the Ranchland outlet that flows to Rolling Creek from Ranchland. And on the bottom, there's a ditch along the back part of Rolling Creek near the front of the Foss track where it starts to, where some of these lots back up to the Foss property. So not a lot of help there. A couple more shots of Rolling Creek itself, where you can see there's a lot of debris collecting, a lot of siltation restricting the flow. There are areas in there where the actual elevation of the flow line is 2.5 feet higher than it is where it leaves Eagle Creek.
And you're going to go in there and clear all that out for your proposal?
We are.
Okay.
And lay it back so that it can be maintained. I think Eric already did a pretty good summary of what the observations were, along with these photos. The photos tell 1,000 words. This is a slide that just shows areas within ranch land that we can have an impact on improving their drainage situation. The area shown here, well, you can see along that property line, the common line between Fost and ranch land, there's a heavy blue line. That's where we'll be constructing this new ditch, which has now gone to a 500-year storm.
It'll be a big ditch.
The area in green will be impacted directly by doing that. Those people will get some relief. The area in the back there really has no drainage outlet at all right now, and this will provide one. The area in yellow will have an indirect impact, and that water, once it builds up, will flow more freely toward the direction of the Rolling Creek outlet rather than causing additional flooding like it does now. So based on that analysis, the applicant has made a number of commitments in order to make these improvements to both the on-site and the off-site drainage. And I'm not going to go back through those again. I think you've already heard them. I'll be glad to answer any questions about them. One thing that Eric Weatherly mentioned was that, even though it has come out of the floodplain, he's asking for 2 feet of fill in those areas that have historically been showing evidence of flooding, and we're going to do that anyway. We're committed to doing that. We don't want flooding in our project. We don't want flooding outside our project.
Kevin's going down sometime tonight, just so you know.
And as he stated, these drainage improvements will be completed with the first phase of the development. So, we know how important stormwater is to everybody. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to briefly summarize how this is going to happen as part of this development. As I just said, we're going to build up the lots in the building areas to provide freeboard during major storm events. And I'm not just talking about the 10-year storm. We're talking about large storms. We're going to be modeling this thing for the 100-year storm. And we're going to be providing some outlets that will handle a 500-year storm. We're going to be constructing berms along these outlet ditches against the ranch land property, because we don't want them to flood during a 100-year storm because of water coming from our land. We're going to berm it. We're going to build a ditch by the property line. Then we're going to put a berm on our side of that ditch. We're going to provide extra storage of water on site so that we can hold a lot more water than the UDO requires. We're going to have a management entity that is going to oversee the stormwater operations. And then, I haven't talked about this, but one of the concerns that we've had is that with regard to the slow rate of pond drawdown that the UDO prescribes. What happens when the second storm is coming? And we've just done this on another project, and what we're going to do is provide flashboard risers on these pond outlets so that if you have a pond that's still half full and you have word that a major storm is coming, then a day or two before that storm you can pull those flashboards and lower those ponds to pre-storm conditions. And we can do that without impacting anybody downstream because we just cleaned out the downstream drainage ways. So Rolling Creek will clear out from a storm event a lot sooner than our project will. Anyway, we just did this on another development, and anyway, we have consulted with Eric Weatherly, with Will Creef, and we think we've got a good plan for managing this stormwater. In fact, we're going to be putting more energy into drainage design on this project than we ever have. Before I move to the compatibility slide, I received an email from David Shepard, who is the Vice President of the Eagle Creek Homeowners Association and also in charge of their drainage facilities. And he said that he had intended to come and speak tonight, but he's under the weather. And he asked if I could share his comments, and said, my question is, can I do that now, or should I wait until the public comment section or the public hearing is open?
Go ahead. Is that all right? Okay, yeah.
Good evening. My name is David Shepard, and I've been a resident of Eagle Creek since 2002 and a member of the HOA Board of Directors since 2016. Flooding into houses and over roads has occurred a number of times in sections of our neighborhood over the last 15 years and grew progressively worse as our internal drainage system silted in and vegetation grew up in the drainage ways. In addition, high water levels during storms caused several failures of our community wastewater system and resulted in wastewater backing into some homes. Money was budgeted by the HOA for drainage improvements several years ago, and since then we have cleared in our excavated rolling canal over its entire length through Eagle Creek. Done the same in approximately one half of Western Canal on our western boundary, completed excavation of over 2 miles of internal ditches, and we continue to make further improvements. All of the water leaving Eagle Creek is directed into Guinea Mill Run Canal and Roland Canal, and all of our efforts depend on water flowing unobstructed downstream in those 2 canals. Guinea Mill Run has functioned as designed and has not been a problem. It lies within a designated drainage district and funds are available for maintenance. Roland Canal, however, is not within a drainage district and relies on landowners for maintenance. While it has been partially snagged and cleared by the county with storm funds several times, none of it downstream of Eagle Creek has been properly maintained over time. To date, this lack of maintenance hasn't contributed to flooding in Eagle Creek. However, the improvements we have made internally are resulting in more water moving out of Eagle Creek and downstream now than in recent years. And our concern is that water will begin to back up from lack of maintenance downstream and prevent water from leaving Eagle Creek, causing worse flooding than we have experienced in the past. Since the county is not responsible for drainage, property owners must address the drainage of their land and maintain drainage ways which pass through it. All landowners bordering a specific drainage way must cooperate in the maintenance of that drainage way, or upstream owners will be negatively impacted. After the community meeting in August, the developers of the Foss property reached out to Eagle Creek for input and suggestions as to what would make us more comfortable with their development. As a result of discussions during several meetings with the developer, they have pledged to substantially improve Roland Creek Canal, not only through their property, but both upstream and downstream as well. In addition to the canal improvements promised, the developer has offered to participate along with Eagle Creek and any other landowner subdivision interested in doing so in an ongoing maintenance or drainage agreement, which would provide funding for future maintenance of Roland Canal from Eagle Creek through and downstream of the project. Based on their commitment to improve Roland Canal and help fund future maintenance, I support this project. I see providing significant drainage improvement to the entire Roland Canal drainage basin at no cost to the county and with no initial outlay of funds by Eagle Creek or other properties in the basin. Growth is coming to Currituck County as long as there are willing sellers of land and buyers of houses. I, as a resident of the county, support the concept of well-planned developments of this size versus spot developments of small clusters of homes spread throughout the county. This size and type of development is capable of providing funding to solve problems such as drainage rather than depending on others to provide solutions. Thank you. And that's from David Shepard.
Thank you. Before you jump into your next segment, before we get too far away, just a couple questions for you. You were talking about the commercial in the front portion, or the higher density portion. You're not actually going to have that up front, right? When you come in, it's going to be further into the neighborhood or development?
The exact location hasn't been determined, but my thinking on it is that having that close to the village green, where there's going to be an opportunity for neighborhood events is the best place to have that.
Okay. And then do you guys have any idea yet kind of how many units you're talking about? Because you said only part of it was going to be.
Well, we've asked for up to 22,000 square feet, and the typical first floor is about 1,000 feet, so that would be up to 22
units. Okay.
Storefronts.
And Ms. LaCicero said that the option is open to convert those back to housing at some point. Is that?
Well, if it's not successful, we wouldn't want them to just sit
right.
empty. So.
Now, what's the measure of success time-wise? Are we talking 2 years or 5 years or 10 years? What, do you guys have any idea on that?
I'm trying to remember what phase we put those in. I think it's phase 3 or 4.
Okay.
Which, so we'll have some massing there of
right.
residents that will
right. okay.
hopefully make that viable.
Okay. That was it for the first part of it. Thank you.
Sure. So the next two slides then address the issue of location and compatibility. This one shows the setting. As you see, the property sits in the middle of several existing large developments. We have 275 lots on one side, 588 on the other, 548 lots directly across the highway. There's about 300 acres of existing zoning adjacent and across the street from us. As you can see, this property is surrounding by major development, so it really appears that the location is appropriate for this kind of development as well. And in terms of compatibility with adjacent properties, we've looked at several recent developments that have been approved and looked at their typical lot size and what's the ratio of existing lot to new lot, and what's their size ratio, what's the density ratio, and as you can see in this table, we're really quite compatible with several other developments that have been recently approved, most notably right next door, Lakeview and Eagle Creek, whereas the size ratio is about 0.45 there. There's only a 25-foot buffer. You have density of 0.86 unit per acre versus 2.37, so there's close to 3 times the density in Lakeview as there is in Eagle Creek, without any real adverse impacts. Here we're comparable to that, about 3 times the density, but keep in mind that ranch land has no open space, so you get an effectively larger lot, and it has no drainage system. And we're providing a minimum 50-foot buffer, and in many areas 100 feet of buffer to ranch land. So we believe that this can be developed without any adverse impact, and in fact will have a positive impact on our neighbors. Jamie Schwadler is a land use attorney from Raleigh, and she's going to address the issues of consistency.
Good evening, Chairman White, members of the Commission. I'm Jamie Schwadler with Parker Poe. I'm here on behalf of the applicant to specifically talk about the consistency questions that you raised earlier and to elaborate on that discussion a little bit with some of the points raised in the staff report. And I'll also share some things from the blog of the School of Government by Professor David Owens. So the purpose of the consistency law that we discussed is that there should be a product of comprehensive analysis, not weighted one way or another. Staff's role is to advise the body of all of the factors that are consistent and inconsistent and impacting the overall consistency of the design. And that didn't change with the statute that was passed just a few years back with consistency statements. The overall role of the staff in advising this board, and you here tonight, is to look at the overall consistency of this plan, looking at both your land use plan and the small Moyoc area small plan and other portions of your UDO, and make a decision whether the plan that we're providing is consistent with those policies. But the county's own regulations indicate the variety of factors to consider, and they're cited in your staff report. They're in section 2.4.3C. We talked about some of those already. That's the impact on neighboring properties, whether this would have an adverse impact on traffic and things like that. And the county's own policies also state that the small area plan and the map alone is not controlling. Your UDO says that although the small area plan map lists the site as limited services, the map should be used, quote, in conjunction with the entire plan and not weighted as more important than the vision, policies, or other recommendations. So while Ms. LaCicero talked about the limited service designation that is on your small area plan, your Moyoc area plan, your UDO says that's not controlling in and of itself. The staff report and Ms. LaCicero's testimony here tonight also goes through the inconsistency, mainly focusing on the small area plan. But what she didn't talk about tonight, and what I'd like to raise with you, is how consistent this plan is on many levels with the land use plan that was adopted in 2006. And the key areas that we're talking about are density. We also talked about the flood hazard area, and then other policies within the Moyoc small area plan, mainly related to density. And the reason density is a big issue is because I think staff is having trouble with the fact that you've got one designation under your 2006 land use plan that says this is a full service area. And your UDO has some specifics about what that means. Under 3.7.3, describing the PDR, Note 1 says that for PDRs in full service areas, the density may not exceed 3 units per acre in full service areas. So we know from our 2006 land use plan that the density can be up to 3 units per acre. We're at 2.25. So we're well within the land use plan. We're consistent with that density policy. Your UDO also defines full service area in 10.58, and it says a full service area is portions of the county designated 2006 land use plan as areas where the higher density should be appropriate for increased growth and development as anticipated by the land use plan. So that plan adopted in 2006 designated this area for up to 3 units per acre. We're well within that density, and that's the density that should control. The conflict, I think, that staff is struggling with is that the small area plan for Moyoc designated this as a lower density, the 1.5 units per acre. But as I read to you before, your UDO says that one map designation itself is not controlling. And not only does the UDO state that, but David Owens himself, who wrote the article that was cited in your presentation by Ms. LaCicero, wrote that 2011 article on consistency. And he stated that one plan shouldn't control over another, and what do we do when a plan is inconsistent? We go through that overall weighting of policies that I mentioned at the outset. But what was not included in that presentation is what we presented before the Planning Board. And that was an update, a December 2018 article that Mr. Owens wrote. And he stated his general rule that the plan is advisory, you can see the quote there, and provides information to be considered when zoning amendments are proposed, but the plan does not dictate what decision must be made. The plan is advisory only. The council may elect to make a rezoning decision that is contrary to the plan. But the exception that he cites, and that I cited before Ms. LaCicero and Ms. Glave at the Planning Board, is that there's a mandated consistency with the CAMA area approved plans. And David Owens said that local development regulations within the areas subject to CAMA regulations must be consistent with the CAMA approved plans. In Currituck County, the 2006 land use plan is the CAMA approved plan. And so only consistency with that land use plan is required. How do we know that the CAMA plan in Currituck County is the 2006 plan? Mrs. Glave, the senior planner at the Planning Board, testified that that in fact was the case. And so the consistency that we're concerned with here under North Carolina law is the 2006 land use plan. And what does that land use plan say about density? It says up to 3 units per acre. And so that's why we believe that the land use plan is controlling in this case. And at the very least, even if it weren't mandated by law, should be given excessive weight here because it is the CAMA plan that's recognized throughout the state. I'd like to just highlight not only is there consistency with the density policies because the 2006 land use plan is controlling, but there's several policies that we listed in letters and correspondence with the staff that were not included in your staff report that make our proposal consistent with the land use plan in other areas. Policy AG6 notes that within the full service area of this land use plan, you should locate and compact village-like clusters, that development can occur at certain densities, that you should encourage residential development, avoiding traditional suburban sprawl. The plan we've showed you does do just that. You've seen compacted areas and larger areas left open for open space, meeting over that 30% requirement that's required under the code. You've also heard a lot tonight about stormwater, and I won't belabor that point too much, except to note that all of those commitments that the applicant is making make this plan consistent with your land use plan and your policies on utilities. The reason that the county was concerned about putting density in the Moyock area was lack of services or failure of services. The proposal we have on the table not only cures your existing failure of some of those drainage dishes and clears things out, but it commits to doing the wastewater on site and working with our neighbors both to clear their existing stormwater problems and prevent the problems from getting worse in the future. And that's a burden that's lifted directly off the county's shoulders. We're basically putting private money into infrastructure instead of tying in and making the systems that are existing worse. And so those are consistent with the policies cited in the land use plan there. Well, we're eligible for county sewer. We're offering to do the private sewer system, and that'll have a positive impact on the county and not only its facilities, but its bottom line. I've also cited several policies in here that talk about the packaged sewage treatment plant. That's a policy lifted directly from the land use plan that indicates a preference for this plant that we're including. Treating the stormwater by controlling the quantity and quality of the stormwater runoff. We heard at length from your own engineer about how this plan, if implemented, would do just that. It's also consistent with numerous policies in the open space category of the land use plan. The plan provides for sidewalks and greenways, walking trails to encourage mobility by pedestrians and bicyclists. You can see the three policies I've cited there, encouraging bikeways, pedestrian use, and adequate open space. Again, we're providing all of those here with the plan, and this developer is going above and beyond what the code is requiring. Finally, with transportation, we're providing for paved public roadways with convenient circulation within the proposed neighborhood. You heard a little bit about some of the traffic commitments and turning lanes, decel lanes that the applicant is providing, as well as the internal circulation. It's located on a major highway. It's an appropriate place for this type of density and design. And it's also consistent with the Moyock area policy emphasis of the land use plan. So while your small area plan is inconsistent in terms of density, we still are providing a plan that's consistent with other types of policy statements. That plan said that residential development density should be medium to high. In areas where central sewer is proposed or existing additional services are available, higher density is appropriate. That's what we're doing here. We're providing the services and the infrastructure so that the county doesn't have to worry about the failure of the systems that are prevalent in other areas. And again, we're consistent with the 2.25 units. I've already covered the future land use map, and I won't belabor the point except to say that there is an encouragement of diversity in housing types. You saw from Mr. Bissell's slides there were at least 4 different types of housing products that are offered in there. It's different for the county, but it's exactly what your future land use plan encourages, and we would love to be the trailblazer in that area. And again, we talked about the complete streets, the cost of infrastructure, and encouraging retrofitting of the NCDOT drainage. All of these points just to go to the fact that there are numerous areas of consistency that were not cited in the staff report, but are important for you to weigh and think about when not just focusing on the one factor of density in this area, but looking at the plan as a whole and what the county is getting from this developer in return for doing something very innovative and helping their adjacent properties with existing drainage issues. And again, these other areas of compliance mirror the factors that the county's own ordinance focuses on. The positive impact on nearby lands, an orderly development pattern. There aren't any significant adverse impacts. In fact, it's to the contrary. We've heard statements tonight by Mr. Weatherly of how much of a positive impact this could have on both Eagle Creek and ranch land if approved. And so, in conclusion, the plans are, in fact, advisory only and do not dictate what decision can be made. But there's that important exception. If the plan has been endorsed by CAMA, and in Currituck County, that is your 2006 land use plan, then that is the plan that should control. And that plan says up to 3 units per acre. We're consistent with that plan, and it's not a basis that this board should use to find us inconsistent. And I'd just like to highlight some of the other commitments that the applicant has made here do enable this board to find a statement of a reason of consistency. As I believe it was Chairman Payman mentioned, it is just a change to the actual land use plan. If you're doing something that's inconsistent, you bring a land use change that's inconsistent, you can adopt that. But we don't need to worry about that here because we're already consistent with the CAMA plan. So the portions and discussions that we had with Mr. McCree don't really apply. Because we already have that consistency here. But to the extent the board were to find that we were somehow inconsistent with the land use plan, despite all of those policies I just cited, the board could still approve the plan and make an amendment to the CAMA plan to find this one property consistent. Again, as I submit all of these policies to counsel us that we don't need to do that. You can find it consistent with the ample amounts of policies that I've cited here. And I urge you to approve the plan, to listen to the presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
That was a fast 8 minutes. Covered a lot of territory. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
I have copies of the 2018 update to the extent the board needs to read them, but I've read the most relevant portion into the record.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
I'll just make a couple of closing remarks.
Okay.
As we've shown, we've proposed a very upscale, attractive development that really could set the standard for future development in Moyock. The issues that have been raised at community meetings are the same ones that you hear about at every community meeting: drainage, traffic, schools, impact on neighboring subdivisions. The big difference here is that we are addressing the drainage in a way that solves documented existing problems while building a well-designed and functional system for this property. And we're setting up a management entity and a funding mechanism for ongoing maintenance, not just a one-time deal. Both Eagle Creek and ranch land will benefit significantly. DOT has reviewed the master plan. They believe that our connection point to 168 is appropriate at this location and safe. School capacity has come up. That's being tracked by the county. The development's being phased and will occur over a period of 10 to 12 years under ideal conditions if there's no slowdown. So, it's going to be like several smaller developments, but with a single master plan that allows a higher level of amenities and the ability to fund more improvements that will benefit the neighboring communities. Ms. Schwedler has thoroughly addressed the consistency and compliance issues. The developer has offered an attractive term sheet that offers terms and conditions that will be binding with this approval. And part of that, one of those conditions is binding the developer to implement all these stormwater measures. We believe this development will be a great asset to Currituck County and that you'll be pleased to have this community in Moyock. It provides for residential housing choices, affordability, diversity. It provides for safe and efficient vehicular circulation while promoting a bicycle and pedestrian-friendly neighborhood. It's going to accomplish exactly what your PDR ordinance prescribes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything else?
Yeah, one question that just popped up in my mind. The clubhouse and recreational areas, what phase would that be built in?
I believe the clubhouse is phase 3.
All right, that's all I wanted to know.
Anything further for the applicant? Okay, nothing. Thank you, sir. With that, I'll take a brief 5-minute recess to stretch the legs and do whatever else you need to do. All right. At this time, I'll open public comment for the Foster Track. First up is, I'll put my glasses on so I can actually see, Susan Powers.
Good evening. My name is Susan Powers, and I'm at 251 Greenview Road. And if you don't know, that's in Eagle Creek. Some of my concerns tonight are not specific to this Foster Track. It's just for the overall growth. Anybody that rides up and down 158, you can look on either side of the road and see these big developments coming in. And that's a concern to me for my future, for my kids, for my investment in my house. Now, as far as impact in the schools for this specific track, you said there's going to be 513 houses. I can do some simple math. If half those houses have kids in them, that's going to be 250 kids trying to go to school. So you're going to have to look at the school capacity. This is a separate neighborhood. We're going to probably have to have a dedicated bus route just to go in and out of that neighborhood to pick up kids. Are we going to have the buses to transport those kids? Are we going to have drivers to drive those buses? Another concern for me is, I don't know if you're aware that recently the fire department rating in Moyock went down, which resulted in a lot of homeowners seeing a savings on their homeowners policy. And if with all this new development, I don't know if in the future that will make the fire department rating go back up because there's more houses to be serviced by this one fire department. And also on a personal level, if I have an emergency and call the fire department and now there's all these other houses they're having to service, is that going to delay the response time to me and my family and my house? Let's see. And another thing too, I wanted, listening to these presentations, I love that this guy's going to go in and dig out all this extra drainage on property that's not his. My concern is what's going to happen 10 years from now. Because obviously this stuff hasn't been maintained up to now. He's going to go in and clean it. What's to make sure that that's going to be still clean in 10, 15, 20, 30 years? We've gone through that in Eagle Creek. They put all these drainage ditches in. Nobody maintained them. So David Shepard, who you read the email, he's gone through and done a lot of work and getting those ditches back up to speed and helping the drainage in Eagle Creek. And my concern is that that's not going to be done for Rolling Creek, and that's not going to be maintained for the future. So I would ask that you deny this. I know that I've read online several times that if it follows your rules and regulations, you can't just unilaterally deny it because you could be involved in a lawsuit, and I don't want Currituck County to go through a lawsuit. But I did want to come here tonight and have my say and just ask that you deny it, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Tina Williams next. No, she signed up twice.
Oh, she did.
My name's Tina Williams. I live at 112 Meadow Blue Chip Drive. And you have already heard what I have to say, but if you would like to hear it again, I'll be happy.
I think just if you thought of something else later.
Come on, Paul. But I would just like to reiterate that I do believe that this would be good for the county. And I would like to address the drainage issue as well, just for 1 second, because I actually live at the back of ranch land up against this, the one drainage ditch. Which one runs at the back?
Guinea Mill.
Guinea Mill. Okay, so that one runs at the back. And I literally live right on that. And even though that's there in the past, we still have flooded during heavy rains, long periods of rain, storms, and so forth. And we've actually had to install our own system there. We have French drains and a pump drain that we have put in ourselves in order to not flood. And so this, I just feel, would be so helpful for other residents of ranch land that may not be able to afford their own drainage system, pump systems, and things of that nature. So, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chris Smith. All right, you made it.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, right. Second time's a charm. My name is Chris Smith. I live at 101 East Robin Court, South Mills, North Carolina. I am the regional sales director for Carter Lumber. You may know us locally as Kimsville Building Materials, or formerly Griggs Lumber, local company here in Currituck. I've been with them 12 years, and I've been selling building materials in Currituck County for almost 19. I'm here to comment on type of development about the Falls Track. There's a lot of things that happen, this type of development. It provides a lot of opportunities for young people, for jobs, things like that in the local area. They don't have to go to Virginia, things like that to work. More jobs equals less unemployment. We all love that. And, people can go to work at these jobs. I mean, you're talking about a, 7 to 10 year project. I mean, me, myself, I'm in Currituck County every day selling building materials. I spend my money here every day, lunch, maybe breakfast, dinner, whatever. Buy gas here every day, and so does the people working here. If you go in any of these restaurants anytime during the day for lunch, you're going to see, the guy doing the septics, the electrician, the plumber. Them guys spend their money here every day. I mean, I probably spend more money in Currituck than a lot of people who live here. Just because nobody ever says that they want to go, let's go out to Currituck, man. Let's go to Currituck tonight. Let's go to Currituck. Let's go to Moyock. You just don't hear that. And I think this development would give the opportunity for people to actually, that live here, to spend their money here. Because I think it's a big problem. I mean, I really do. People that buy these places, it appeals to everybody. I mean, I've personally been involved in projects in Greenville, North Carolina, Newport News, Raleigh, that are these mixed-use type developments. And I mean, you get, your first-time home buyer who can't afford a house because, a lot of people who grew up in Currituck probably can't afford a house here now. So maybe this mixed-use development will give them the opportunity to live close to their family, and give them, that dream of home ownership that we all want. Because I mean, with a lot of development, building houses on 2 and 3 acres, I mean, you can't get a lot in Currituck for what's a 2 or 3 acre lot in Currituck? 150 grand. I mean, you can't. Maybe these mixed-use developments, you might be able to get a townhouse or an apartment or something like that, and fall in that same, payment as as going to to Virginia. So I think that'd be a good thing for the area. And along with that, you get retail, you get doctors' offices, and, like they were talking about the open space, community building, things like that. People can actually, on their weekends, they can stay in Moyock or Currituck instead of going to Virginia or somewhere else to spend their money. Because I personally don't think people spend a lot of their money in this area that live here. They go other places to do it for leisure. And I think it's a proven fact. But I mean, this development, it's a planned development. It's not just a cul-de-sac cutting a field, which we see a lot around here. So I think that'd be great when you pull in, the plan looks really good. It'd be something that people want to go spend time and enjoy. So, I mean, I think that y'all should vote yes, expand the dream of homeownership to a lot of people, and, become this vibrant community, and, vote yes to the future of Moyock. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Iris O'Connor.
Hello, my name is Iris O'Connor. My mother is Miriam Flora Davis, and Sandy Fost is my younger, much, much younger sister.
Before you get too much further, could you just give us your address, please, for the record?
Yeah,
Thank you.
346 Canton Stone Drive in Franklin, Tennessee.
Thank you.
So I was born in Moyock, and I lived here for 17 years, but I have not lived here in the last 55 years. So I thought, what can I say to you that would be of any value? And I came up with this. I have moved 19 times since I left Moyock, and I have lived in developments like this, several places in the United States and several places in England. Some of those developments were the first of their kind in that area. Some of them were in small towns that had a rural background that were close to larger cities, like Moyock is. My experience has been, and the experience of my friends who have lived in these developments, that they are absolutely delightful environments to live in. And as I have watched them grow, without exception, they have become very desirable places to live in the communities where they were built. You rarely would have a house for sale very long or an apartment for rent if there were any rentals. I've lived in both the townhouse versions and the single-family versions. I've also found in the surrounding areas, which I would include all of Currituck County, that where these developments were, other kinds of establishments that were very appealing were located in the counties. And by very desirable establishments, I mean nice small shopping areas, sometimes the bigger department stores, certainly nicer restaurants, places for kids to go after school. All 4 places I lived in England, all 4 were of this type of development, and you rarely see anything built anymore over there that is not. I'm going to be selling my house near Nashville within 2 years, and I'm going to move to a development like this. I will probably rent at that point, but that's what I'm looking for. So I thought that's what I could add of value for you to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy Faust.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Sandy Faust, 121 Sound Shore Drive, Currituck, where I've lived for over 30 years. I've lived in Currituck all my life. I grew up in Moyock. My husband and I have given 43 years to teaching and coaching in this county. We've given 60 years of service to the state of North Carolina. My husband retired from the Currituck County Schools, and I plan to retire at the end of the year. I love living in Currituck. It's a great place to live and raise a family. I'm involved in a project that I believe will be beneficial to our immediate neighbors, Moyock, and our county. I'm one of the landowners of the land up for rezoning this evening, the Foss Tract. This land has been in my family for about 100 years, and as farmland, it has provided for my family for several generations. As time has passed, it has gotten tougher for small farms to make much. Add to that the fact that the land only continues to be divided up from generation to generation, and you can see that the land is becoming less valuable for farming, therefore, it's able to be less profitable. As you know, we wanted to develop this property for solar use, but we abandoned our pursuit of solar contracts when the county banned the solar project. So when my husband, my sister, and I were approached by multiple developers recently, we determined that the best way for our land to provide for our family was by selling. As landowners, we feel that we have the right to do with our land what we want as long as it is not detrimental to the county. We're hopeful that the commissioners will approve this rezoning request, as we believe the request is supported by all applicable county plans and ordinances. We have been to enough commissioners' meetings to know that one of the most important things to consider in a rezoning request is what effect it will have on the nearby neighbors, the community, and the county. We feel that the proposed development will be beneficial in the following ways. It will increase the existing neighbors' property values. It will improve the drainage of both Ranchland and Eagle Creek subdivisions at no cost to either of those subdivisions or the county. Rooftops equal tax revenue. Rooftops are more inviting to retail and dining, and this development will bring many jobs to the county. We have been told by many people that we went with the best developers for this project, and we tend to agree. They held a second public meeting to address how they would solve drainage issues that were brought up at the first. They have been involved in several quality developments in the area. We have no doubt that the proposed development will be just as nice. I remember the way Moyock used to be. Like I said, I grew up there. Everybody knew each other. No stoplights, 2-lane road, beach traffic backed up for miles on Saturdays in the summer, and very few places to eat or shop. That was the way Moyock was. It is not like that now, nor will it ever be that way again. Moyock is pushing forward. I miss old Moyock, but at the same time, I'm really thankful that we have the conveniences that are there now. One of the things pointed out at the public meeting was that people wanted more retail and dining options, and without residential development, those things are not going to come. We respectfully ask that you keep landowner rights in mind and vote favorably to the rezoning of our property. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mike Faust.
Mike Faust, also 121 Sound Shore Drive, Currituck. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. I'm here tonight to voice my strong support for the land rezoning and proposed development currently known as the Faust Tract, and I hope that you will cast a vote that is pro-landowners' rights and approve this project. You have before you landowners who lost out on the solar contract they were seeking due to the solar ban. It wasn't only because of the solar ban, however. At the Commissioners' public meetings about solar projects, there were comments that even if the ban were lifted, the county would not approve solar projects near main thoroughfares, which the land under question is, or near schools, which the land under question is. At this time, the landowners were also informed that due to their land's location, solar panels would not be the best use of their property. Thus, the solar contract was lost. And so tonight you have before you these same landowners respectfully making a reasonable rezoning request for their land from agricultural to residential. This rezoning comes to you, or this rezoning request comes to you with the unanimous vote of the Currituck County Planning Board recommending approval. I'm saying it's a reasonable request based on the surrounding properties. On the one side, you have ranch land with however many hundred houses. On the other side, you have Eagle Creek and Lakeview with however many hundred houses. Across the road, you have construction underway for however many hundred houses. If a residential rezone of the land that is essentially in the middle of these other neighborhoods is not reasonable, then I'm at a loss as to what would constitute the best use of this land. You also have before you tonight a quality proposed development plan to be considered for this reasonable rezoning request. This proposed development will have a positive economic impact not only on Moyock but on Currituck as a whole. The developers have said that it will be at least 12 years until the project's completely built out. Think about this for a minute. This project will still be providing steady employment for locals past the year 2030, and that's if construction starts tomorrow. There will also be the increased property values of the surrounding neighborhoods, the increased tax revenue, the daily spending of the workers, the spending in the new residents, influx of businesses, not to mention the fact that the proposed development includes a retail component. The list could go on, and other people have alluded to those things. And finally, you have before you tonight developers who, based on the number of quality projects they have completed in Currituck and the surrounding area, are obviously well respected and trusted by Currituck County. They've pledged to improve the drainage of the residents of nearby neighborhoods at their own expense, and I'm sure they can be trusted to follow through with another quality development in Currituck on the Faust O'Connor property. Once again, our hope is that you'll take this opportunity to show that you hold landowners' rights in high regard and approve this reasonable rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have signed up tonight. Would anyone else like to speak? Come on up, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
My name is Jennifer Swaim. I live at 122 Bison Drive in Ranchland. From my house to the border, there are 9 new subdivisions going in. I don't see a problem with needing more residential. I see more that we need more commercial for the kids to do. They have nothing to do in Moyock. Everything is from Barco down. We have kids that get in trouble a lot. They go to the police a lot. They get in trouble a lot. We have nothing for the kids to do. Why cannot we not make it a commercial area for the kids to do. Make it a recreational area, maybe a skating rink, maybe a bowling alley, an arcade, something like that. Instead of raising our taxes to build these new homes of 513 homes between two developments, we've got plenty of homes going up. Why not make it a commercial area that we get new restaurants, we get new things for the kids to do, new things for the adults to do. Nobody's spending money down here like they're stating that nobody spends money down here because there's nothing for us to do. We have to go to Chesapeake to do things. We have to go further south to do things because there's nothing for us to do here. Why do we need more new homes between ranch land and the border station? There's 9 new developments coming in. Why do we need more? We need more things for us to do here to keep the money in Currituck versus going to Chesapeake or the OBX or things like that. Why do we need new homes? That's going to make more school system, more stuff for the schools to have to pay for, more stuff for the county to have to pay for, to buy new buses for these buses to go in, to get new teachers, maybe even possibly build a new school to support these kids. Instead, we're going to let the kids get in trouble instead of giving them something more positive to do. Thank you.
Thank you much. Anyone else? Oh, Ms. Gilbert.
Marion Gilbert, 107 Fargo Court. I also live in Ranchland, and I attended both of the public meetings that were held for this property, and a lot of good points were made up. I was a sitting commissioner at that time, and through my tenure as a commissioner, it was constantly asked for affordable housing. And this development, the planned use development, is a great way to afford affordable housing in the northern part of the county. We've allowed some homes or townhomes to be built in the lower part of the county, but this is phased. The commissioners have worked really hard on transitioning properties. One question that I would propose to the developer at some point in time is the interconnectivity. I live in Ranchland. There's one way in, one way out. So that's kind of a possibility of transitioning or the interconnectivity, either to one part of Ranchland to give a second exit. This development has one entrance in, one entrance out. So it's important to consider that going forward. And again, the engineers would have to decide on that. But I would ask you to consider some of those points. The FOST have done a great job of compelling you to make a decision to let them do with what they want with their property. As the lady that spoke right before me talking about going to Chesapeake, having to bring our business and things like that to Chesapeake. Look at the townhomes and the apartments right across the border at Edinburgh. That's a larger scale of what kind of is being proposed. But this development also, as you look, it transitions. The more density is at the front, and then it transitions out. Those of us in Ranchland, we're on single home septic systems because we have to have a certain acreage to have septic systems. So we're all on septic systems, and the drainage is going to be a huge difference for Ranchland. I would also bring up the point that we have the Guinea Mill district that is not active, and I would love to see if this development goes through that snagging, the ditches in Ranchland haven't been snagged or cleaned out since 1974, which is the date that's on my covenant. We need to work on getting the Guinea Mill because there's money in that account, and that would also help the backside of Ranchland to kind of add on to the Guinea Mill road. So please consider those facts also. But I would say that the developer will do what he says he's going to do, and he's proven that to me on many occasions. So I just thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, I will close.
Can I just throw something out there?
You have to come up to the mic.
Okay. I'm sorry. My name is Susan Powers at 251 Greenview. And we've had a lot of talk about affordable housing and all this discussion.
I've never heard like a price range for any of this stuff. I mean,
Well, right now, we're not building a neighborhood. We're doing a rezone for proposals. So,
right, but that's one of the benefits that they've outlined.
Right, and that will come forward at a later time.
What would affordable housing be to you? I mean,
Right.
100,000, 200,000, 300? Obviously, with all these beautiful houses and amenities, it's not going to be $100,000 townhomes.
Right.
So I just wanted to throw that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We'll close the public comment. I will address a couple things that were brought up. I believe it was you, Ms. Powers, that brought up fire department service concerns. Those kinds of things, we contract with the fire departments and keep adding on. If the need for another fire department arises, we'll probably contract with someone or let the existing fire departments expand to handle those needs. They work very diligently to reduce your fire rating, and that is through their efforts, and I'm sure that will continue as we work diligently with those departments to do that throughout the county with the FIAB board. People talk about commercial development. Well, businesses, we don't control business development. We do in zoning, we say you can put it here or here or here. We have commercial areas set aside in Moyock to develop. The problem is we need a business to want to develop those. To do that, we need rooftops. So these kind of density projects help us to bring people in with expendable income that businesses will be encouraged to develop here. So there's a fine line between overdeveloping and underdeveloping, and hopefully we are straddling that well. Time will tell. We also, you were saying there was 9 new developments. Well, a lot of those have been on the books for a while, and they are just now kind of coming to fruition because the economy was not there and lending wasn't there. So yes, we're seeing what appears to be a building boom, but in reality, those have been on the books for a while, longer than I've been on the Board of Commissioners. So just want to kind of clear that up, and I hope that helps you kind of understand some of the things that are going on here. Is there any?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions for Ms. LaCicero. We've heard a lot about the Moyock Small Area Plan. Could you explain to the public how this came about?
Well, I wasn't here for it, but it came about in 2012, summer of 2012. The Board of Commissioners, in response to the community, initiated this process where you take a more detailed look at a smaller area. We do have the 2006 land use plan, but once again, that's a county-wide. So that started in the summer of 2012, where the Board of Commissioners directed staff to comprehensively examine the growth and development issues in the Moyock area. From the summer of 2012, a 15-member stakeholder committee was formed. There was 14 meetings held for that. And 2 community meetings were held to take this plan out to the public, and then it was adopted in April of 2014. We looked at this plan, looked at not only land use, but the demographics of an area, infrastructure, and what the community wanted, how the community felt like it wanted to develop. So that's like a very brief recap of the Moyock Small Area Plan. And if you have any specific questions.
I just wanted you to explain it. So it's more what the people up in the Moyock area wanted. Also, you're talking about the land use plan. Are we not in the process of updating that?
We are. We are in the process of updating the 2006 land use plan with Imagine Currituck.
Okay, in that area, do you know what it's designated as?
It is. We're changing the terminology, some of the nomenclature from like full service areas, but this area would still be a lower density of probably 1 to 2 units per acre, and the new land use in the Imagine Currituck is the density of this for the new land use plan.
And that'll be approved by CAMA?
Yes, it will be approved by CAMA.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
I just want to say, when we were comparing earlier, ranchland was developed in the 60s. And like Marion said, I was born in 1974, and that's the last time the ditches have been cleaned out. So, and my family, we own a lot in ranchland. So, I mean, like I said, there is some drainage issues there. This guy's offering to do, and I'm just throwing out numbers, a few $100,000 worth of drainage work out of his own pocket, and nobody's telling me he has to do that. That shows he's a good neighbor. He lives local. I ride the roads in Currituck more than anybody in this room. I rode them for 13 hours today in the cop car. Some of the subdivisions, Indian Ridge and Sharborough, I was there today. It's a nice neighborhood. He did that. Rosewood was there today. He did that one as well. I mean, he builds quality subdivisions. Saddlebrook off of South Mills Road, another nice subdivision. Moyock's growing. I've lived here my whole life. I mean, do I want it to keep growing? Do I not? I mean, you know, it's inevitable. Like I said, he builds decent products. I mean, like I said, he's a local guy. He buys local. I'd love to see what he spent at Kempsville building materials a year. You know, like I said, and he supports the community. So, I mean, the density, we're talking Eagle Creek is probably a 1.5. Lakewood is 2 and some change, and he's 2 1/4. Which 2 miles up the road we've talked about in Currituck Station, that's the same. So I don't see where the difference was in that. You know, I mean, like I said, like the chairman said, you know, rooftops, everybody wants more stores, everybody wants more business. You know, I mean, but to get more business, we got to have more rooftops. I don't know the answer, but he builds quality developments. I'll just leave it at that.
Yes, sir.
So a couple of points were brought out that I think it bears additional details. One of the things that was mentioned was concern about the schools and the growth of the schools. First and foremost, this Board of Commissioners is tracking that extremely closely to ensure adequate education facilities as the need arises. Referring to the subdivisions that are currently being built and built out, anytime a subdivision is proposed in Currituck County, and we have a formula that, Lord knows, I don't know who came up with it, but they must have been pretty smart because it is scary how close that formula predicts how many elementary school kids are in a household, middle school and high school, and it is, I bet you it's within 5 students. And if you think about all the subdivisions going in, that's kind of impressive. We are tracking the county's growth, and one of the things that this board is working on as we speak is trigger points as to when we start, building another school, for example. The challenge is education of tomorrow is not what we saw last year. And so the impacts of the internet and the impacts of distance learning, we're still trying to really get a handle on it, and, as well as the school system. So when this subdivision comes forward, its planned child loading will be balanced out of what capacity already exists in the Currituck County schools. Back 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, part of what, and I would suggest this is what got Currituck Station kind of off the ground and moving, is the demographics are real relative to Currituck County. And that is, at the time of that study, and was it 2015, I'm thinking, ballpark? The study came out, and based upon census data, Currituck County is going to add, it is forecast that Currituck County is going to add 4,000 dwelling units in the next 30 years. So if I can remember my math correctly, that was an average of about 207 homes a year. We are exceeding that level of building permits. And so there's 2 choices. Well, first of all, we can't stop people from wanting to live here. We all moved here, and they want basically a piece of what we found. It will change the character of Currituck and Moyock specifically, but what we're seeing is a greater desire to not, cross the state line, sigh of relief, drop the luggage, and we're moving in. Otherwise, Southland would be, overwhelmed. So they are pressing further to the south, but we're trying to manage that growth in such a manner that it doesn't adversely impact those of us that have been here for a while. I serve as the commissioner with the EMS Fire Advisory Board, and you mentioned a valid concern, and that's how's it going to impact emergency response. I can tell you that fires don't happen as much as we think they do. Although this year's been kind of a banner year, and we've had a lot more than normal. But there is a system in place. It's called mutual aid. And what happens is anytime there's a fire call, for example, in Moyock, the first units on scene are coming from the local station, but they are quickly supported by not only the Crawford Fire District, which is the next one up the road, but in fact, Lower Currituck will frequently respond as well. I think when Sakura went up, Lower Currituck actually responded and helped participate. And that works not only with fire response, but also emergency medical services. When a unit is dispatched, everyone's notified, so there's another ambulance standing by ready to respond. And we've actually repositioned ambulances within the county to cover gaps in potential service. So we have a system in place that, and in fact, that's why the rating is the way it is, because we all work together. And then finally, I would suggest to you that the communities either do one of two things. Either you grow or you die. There are not many communities that remain static. And, there's a perception by thwarting growth that discourages additional investment in our communities. And that's not only business, but that's also in residential as well. And, and Kevin brought up a great point. How long will this neighborhood take to build out? Justin? Okay, so for 10 years, we're going to be having all kinds of folks working in there, buying, and that's, that's a huge deal. And, one of the things that Commissioner Payman's been very involved in, and that's the trades. And the reality is, Currituck County is where a lot of those trades go to work. So, anyway, just for information purposes.
If I might add, too, we get a lot of mutual aid from the base, from Northwest Base. I'm a sergeant of patrol at the Sheriff's Department, so I'm out there working. Those guys respond all the time, and if it's been a major fire, we get some assistance from Chesapeake as well. So, I mean, they're coming to render aid. I've even pulled a hose.
With your back, that's scary.
Yeah.
Once.
Right. Yeah. Actually, a couple times around.
Anything further from the board? Comments, questions? All right.
Owen?
Would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
I guess, am I going to be that guy? I'd like to make a motion, like I said, to approve PB 18-23 because the request is, 1, it's consistent with the land use plan. 2, it is consistent with the Moyock Small Area Plan. 3, it is consistent with all the review standards from Section 2.4.3C of the UDO. Number 4, it will improve drainage problems with existing neighborhoods, Ranchland and Eagle Creek. 5, it is compatible with the existing neighborhoods in Moyock. And the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the higher density residential growth is needed in Moyock outside of Currituck Station regardless of the availability of the county sewer.
Did you want to put any extra conditions on there, such as things that were proper?
Yeah, the one condition and we've talked about, and I spoke to Mr. Bissell, all the drainage improvements, and this isn't on here, but like that they've discussed, as well as that he's met with Mr. Weatherly, Mr. Old's willing to put that in writing, that they will, do all that work for the county as well as for the neighbors. I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars of stormwater work that this guy's willing to do out of his own pocket.
Chairman McCord, if I could just say, I guess would it be appropriate then to
Promotion.
Get a promotion. Nice.
Chairman McCord.
He called me chairman. Hey,
Oh, I'm
McCord.
sorry.
I was sitting beside
Commissioner
him.
Chairman, I'm sorry. I was looking this way. Sorry, he got in the way. To add the terms and conditions listed by the developer and the terms and conditions listed by the master plan, would that cover most of the stuff that they had mentioned into their?
I believe it would cover most of it, yes.
Okay.
With the stuff that the attorney as well as the
Would you want to make sure it covers all of it?
yeah, we want to cover it all.
Well, and then they also made a comment on a 500-year stormwater.
Yeah, based on all the comments that were made for the
commitments.
Commitments, not comments. Per the attorney as well as the applicant, the surveyor.
And the other thing, the language specific to the ditches was to snag and drag Rollin Creek, clean, grade, and slope all the way to Eagle Creek.
Yeah, as they listed in that.
Okay. Would they be required to maintain them for so many years, like the lady mentioned?
I think they made a comment that they were going to have funding. They were going to. They had a plan for funding to maintain
Within the
these.
neighborhood.
Yeah, the neighborhood to make sure they were upkept.
While it's under.
Until it's turned over to a homeowners association.
Right. If you would like to amend that just slightly, you can have staff draw that up for you to be entered in at our next meeting and read in so that we capture all of the various layers to that.
Yeah, and that's fine. Based on everything that we have on our sheet here for the approval, as well as adding in what the attorney and the applicant surveyor stated all that they were going to do, if we can add that, as well as the drainage and the stormwater work, which that's going to be maintained during the life of the project until it's turned over to an HOA.
Okay.
Any opinion from our attorney on this motion?
I always get the ones with like a lot to it.
What I'm hearing you say
jump right in with both
is that and that you direct staff to reduce the motion and conditions in writing for entry at your next meeting.
What I said.
February 18th, what I said, what the county attorney said.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Owen did. All right, moving on to new business. A, resolution authorizing contract between CT Mechanical, Inc. and the County of Currituck to North Carolina General Statute 14-234.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recuse myself from voting on this since the company is my company and I would financially benefit from a decision either way. So I'd ask the board to accept my recusing from voting on this.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ike? Do we need to vote on?
Yes, you
okay.
entertain
We have a motion.
Commissioner Payment from voting on this matter.
I'll make the motion to excuse him from voting on this matter since he owns the company.
Do we have all in favor?
Aye.
No, nay? None of them? Okay, we're good.
Mr. Chairman, pursuant to GS 14-234, the general statutes, a county official, in particular a county commissioner, is prohibited from doing business.
Turn your mic on.
Sorry.
Thank you.
From doing business with the county that he or she serves, but there is an exception in the statute that provides that a public officer may enter into a contract with a county the public officer served if the county does not contain a town or city with a population of more than 15,000 persons, and so long as the amount of the contract does not exceed $40,000 in a 12-month period. In addition, there would be a requirement, of course, that this resolution be adopted authorizing the county to enter into business contracts with Commissioner Payments Company, and that quarterly there would be the requirement that the amount of money that the county would expend with Commissioner Payments business be posted for the public to be able to see and access. This is a resolution this board has adopted several times in the past in order for the county to be able to at times that it might be deemed necessary to contract with Commissioner Payments Company for HVAC services. Staff commends it to you for approval.
Okay, thank you.
Can I state too that he's done work for the county for probably over a decade, way before he was ever a commissioner. So he was a frequent vendor for the county in the past.
Sure.
I think Keith Charles is reliable.
Right. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion on this?
I move for approval of the resolution authorizing the contract between CT Mechanical and Currituck County.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously.
We need you.
The AC is off.
Yeah, the AC.
Air conditioning broke.
Yes, it is. The heat just came on. All right. Next item on the agenda, B, an ordinance of the Currituck County Board of Commissioners amending Chapter 2, Article 3 of the Code of Ordinances by repealing Division 2 Economic Development Advisory Board.
Mr. Chairman, this comes out of your recent retreat where the board had a discussion with regard to the continuation or the advisability of continuing an Economic Development Advisory Board. The advisory board had been, in essence, dormant for some time. At the retreat, the board made a determination that the Economic Development Advisory Board was no longer deemed necessary by the Board of Commissioners, in that we have an Economic Development Director, Larry Lombardi, who is responsible for the day-to-day economic development activity of the county, and the board, of course, would look to him through the manager for regular reporting as to the status of economic development activity. With that, there is before you tonight an ordinance that would repeal Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 2 of the Currituck County Code of Ordinances. That is the section that provides for the Economic Development Advisory Board. Upon adoption of this ordinance, which would have to be unanimous since this is its first reading, the Economic Development Advisory Board would cease to exist.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Anyone like to make a motion on this item?
I have a question. Are we not going to appoint the Board of Commissioners as the Economic Development Board? Because I think that's what we talked about also.
I don't know that there's a necessity to appoint you per se, and that as the county commissioners, you could certainly assume that responsibility.
I mean, we're going to have work sessions and stuff like that when we have new stuff. So, I mean, indirectly, the citizen, it's just going to be us filling in.
But I agree with Commissioner Owen. I thought we said that the commissioners were going to be
that responsibility.
Well, I mean, you ultimately have always assumed that responsibility, as the Economic Development Advisory Board was merely advisory to you. I've suggested it may be somewhat redundant for you to appoint yourselves as a advisory board to yourself.
Sounds good to me.
Right. Okay. Any further discussion on this very confusing topic? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve this.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Next item is board appointments, Tourism Advisory Board.
Yes, sir. I'd like to appoint Ann Morgan Bell to the Tourism Advisory Board. She retired from the school system here in Currituck County. She's now the manager of the Cotton Gin down at Corolla, and she's just very interested in tourism and is excited about getting to work and encouraging more tourism for the county.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Keith Dix.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Who was Commissioner Beaumont's?
Keith Dix.
Keith
Okay,
Dix.
that's what I thought he said.
He does a great job.
Yeah,
Thank you
that's what I thought
for
he said.
appointing him. Next item on the agenda, consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item, county manager's report.
Yes, sir. Two quick things for the board, shocking. Wanted to report to the board and to the community that now that the federal government is open back up, all of the necessary work that the federal government was required to do as a precursor to being able to go into closing on the land swap between U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Currituck County, all of that work has been completed. It's been sitting in D.C. waiting for the appropriate signatures. Now that the federal government is open back up, those signatures are being secured, and we should be moving now towards a close in the next several months on the land swap. Also, Commissioner Beaumont and myself attended the RPO meeting, and at that meeting, the NCDOT told us that they are starting the 2050 long-term transportation plan for the state of North Carolina. Anybody who has an interest in commenting or suggesting anything to do with any mode of transportation is encouraged to go to the NCDOT website where there's an opportunity for you to add your comments. And that's my comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, that concludes regular business this evening. Someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
Mike? All right, you're it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Now I'll open the special meeting of the Tourism Development Authority. We have TDA budget amendments.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. You have two budget amendments in your package tonight for your consideration as a TDA. The first one, as the board knows, you've spent some significant conversation with this. We have just renegotiated the next 5 years of the ocean rescue, the lifeguard contract for the Corolla area. You have a budget amendment to reflect the additional level of services and the additional costs associated with that contract between now and June 30th. You have a second contract in there that the county is moving forward with buying a new module of Munis software that can be utilized to track electronically the different vendors who pay occupancy tax. We do that, or have historically done that, through an Excel spreadsheet, and this is taking advantage of modern technology to better track and account for occupancy tax. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have on either one of those budget amendments.
Any questions from the board? All right. Well, I'll move to approve the budget amendments.
Second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the special meeting of the Tourism Development Authority.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. That concludes our business this evening. Thank you all.